Terrence sent me a text on a Tuesday afternoon. 3 sentences. First one said, he ran into Joel last weekend. Second one said, Joel seems to be doing fine. Third one said, Joel has been spending a lot of time with a guy named Patrick lately, and apparently Patrick has been helping him out with a few things. I read all 3 sentences. Then I read them again. 2 weeks. That was the number that hit me before anything else. It had been 2 weeks since I told Joel I was done. 2 weeks since I stopped answering the Venmo requests and the casual mentions of being short until Friday and the text that always landed right before rent was due. I put my phone down on the kitchen counter and I waited. Nothing came. Not right away. I stood there for what felt like a full minute, just waiting for the familiar ache of being swapped out like a part that finally wore thin enough to replace. I have felt that before. Different people, different years, but I know exactly how it sits in the chest. That low burn of realizing you meant less than you thought. But it did not come. The chest stayed quiet. The burn never arrived. I kept standing there. Let the absence of it settle. Let myself really feel the fact that nothing was happening inside me where something always used to happen. Then I named it. Relief. Clean and simple and not complicated at all. 6 years of borrowing. 2 weeks to find someone new. I was not surprised. I was not angry. I was just free. My name is Matt. I was 34 when Terrence sent me that text, running a small roofing crew out of the suburbs and still answering calls from my mother every Sunday like clockwork. Loyal by instinct. Slow to change my mind about people once I decided they were worth my time. The first time I met Joel, I was 26 at a work conference in a hotel ballroom that smelled like coffee and carpet cleaner. He was funny in a way that did not feel like he was trying. Easy to talk to. The kind of person who made a big room feel smaller and warmer just by standing in it. We exchanged numbers after the first breakout session. Got dinner twice that week. By the time the conference ended, we had made plans to keep in touch, and I actually meant them. We did keep in touch. 2 years of phone calls and occasional visits where he would crash on my couch, and we would stay up too late talking about nothing important. I considered Joel one of the people I would call in a genuine emergency. I believed he would say the same about me. The first ask came in year 2. He had been laid off. Company restructuring, nothing he did wrong. He called me on a Thursday night and asked if he could borrow $300 to cover his electric bill until he landed something new. He was specific about the amount and specific about the timeline. 2 weeks, he said. I sent it that evening without a second thought. Did not think of it as a loan. Thought of it as what you do for a friend who is having a bad month. He found a new job 6 weeks later. Sent me a message saying things were stabilizing and he would sort out the 300. I replied saying there was no rush, and I meant it. Did not track it. Did not think about it again for months. I did not bring it up when he called about something else entirely. Just filed it as the cost of having a friend who was having a hard year. Bad months have a way of becoming bad years when nobody names the pattern. But I was not naming anything yet. I was just being a friend. Year 3, Joel called about his rent. 2 weeks behind. Landlord gave him a deadline. He gave me a number. Larger than the electric bill, but still within the range that felt like a friend helping rather than a bank lending. He said he had a freelance check coming in 10 days. I transferred the money. The freelance check never came up again. The rent got paid, and the month moved on, and we talked about other things like nothing had happened. There was a mutual contact from the conference circuit named Terrence. Observing guy. Straightforward. Watched things from a distance, but never got close enough to be in the middle of them. Year 4, I was at a dinner with Terrence and 2 other guys, and Joel's name came up. Terrence made a comment. Offhand, not pointed. Said Joel has a way of landing on his feet because he always finds someone willing to help him back up. Said almost admiringly. No malice at all. I said something vague and moved on. But on the drive home, I thought about what he said. Thought about the electric bill. Thought about the rent. Thought about 2 or 3 smaller amounts in between that I could not now remember the reasons for. Got home. Did not do anything with the thought. Went to bed. Year 5, Joel asked for $800. Said it was a medical bill. Unexpected, not covered by his insurance. needed to be paid before they would schedule the follow-up. He sounded genuinely stressed. I asked if he was okay. He said he would be. He just needed to get through this. I sent the money. Did not ask when I might see it back. After the transfer, he sent me a message. Said, "I don't know what I'd do without you, man." Genuinely. I said you'd figure it out. He said no, I really wouldn't. I thought he meant it as a compliment at the time. A man who has borrowed across 5 years and never fully settled a debt is not describing love when he says he needs you. He is describing infrastructure. But I was not hearing the difference yet. I was just hearing a friend who said he needed me. And I believed him. Year 6, I did something I had not done before. Sat down on a Sunday night with my laptop and a cup of coffee that went cold before I took more than 2 sips. Pulled up my bank history. Went back as far as it would let me. 6 years of statements. Scrolled through page after page looking for every transfer I could remember making to Joel. Amounts, dates, the reasons I could remember. Some of them I had to guess at. Just a notation on a screen from 3 years ago with his name and a number and no context. But most of them I remembered. The electric bill, the rent, the medical bill, the smaller ones in between that I had stopped logging in my head after a while. Worked at it for about an hour. When I was done, I had a number written on a piece of notebook paper. It was not catastrophic, but it was larger than I expected. Large enough that I read it twice to make sure I had not added wrong. I called Joel that week. Not about the number. I was not ready to say it out loud. Did not know if I ever would be. Called to catch up, which was genuine. We talked about his job and my crew and a movie he had seen the weekend before. Normal stuff. Somewhere in the middle of the conversation, Joel mentioned he was having a tight month. Did not ask directly. Just dropped it in like a piece of information. The way someone might mention the weather. I recognized the architecture immediately. Grew up with it in my own family. The mention that is the ask. The one that leaves space for the other person to offer so nobody has to say the words out loud. I let it sit there for a few seconds. Did not respond to it. Steer the conversation somewhere else. Asked him about a trip he had mentioned taking in the spring. Joel steered back once. Said he was not sure he could afford the trip after all. I steered it away again. Asked about his dog instead. The call ended without an ask being made explicitly. Joel said we should get together soon. I said definitely. Hung up. Stood in my kitchen for a minute with the phone in my hand. Felt the shape of what I had just done. Not said no. Just not said yes. And that felt different. I texted my oldest friend from childhood that night. Andre. Known me for 30 years. We played Little League together. He was the best man at my wedding. He had never needed a cent from me, and I had never needed a cent from him. Asked if he wanted to grab dinner the next night. He said yes. At dinner we talked about his kids and my mother and a guy from high school we had both lost touch with. Normal stuff. I did not bring up Joel. Did not mention the number on the paper or the call or any of it. I just sat across from a person who had never asked me for money and noticed what that felt like. Noticed that the way you notice a headache is gone. Not dramatically. Not with relief exactly. Just as an absence of something you had stopped registering as unusual. Something you've been carrying so long you forgot your shoulders were tight until they were not. I drove home that night and did not say a word about any of it. But I did not throw away the piece of paper either. Joel called 3 weeks later. I saw his name on the screen and let it ring twice before I picked up. He had a situation. Needed $500 by Friday. Gave me the reason. A car payment. A gap between a freelance invoice going out and the payment coming in. A timing problem, not a money problem. He was careful to say that. Timing problem, not a money problem. I listened to the full explanation. Did not interrupt. Let him walk through the whole thing the way he always did. The setup, the justification, the promise of resolution just over the horizon. When he finished, I asked one question. What happened to the $800 from last year? Joel went quiet. Not a short pause. A real one. The kind where you can hear someone trying to find the right door in a dark hallway. Then he said he had been meaning to address that. Said it had been on his mind. Said he had just been in a cycle he could not seem to get ahead of. He would make it right. He just needed to get through this Friday situation first, and then he could look at the bigger picture. Bigger picture. He said it the way someone says a phrase they have rehearsed in a mirror. I listened to this too. Did not say anything for a moment. Then I told him I was not going to be able to help this time. Joel pushed back. Not aggressively. Skillfully. He reminded me of specific moments between us. The road trip we took in year one. That period when I was going through something difficult at work, and he was present for it. He talked about the texture of the friendship before it became this. Deployed the history of the relationship in real time, like he was pulling receipts out of a folder. I heard him do it. Heard it clearly in a way I had not heard before. Something about that clarity made the conversation very simple. I said, Joel, I hear you. I'm not going to help with this one. He said, is this about the 800? I said, it's about all of it. He said, all of what? I said, 6 years of all of it. Long pause on his end. Then he said, I didn't know you were keeping score. I said, I wasn't. That's the problem. Joel said nothing. I said, I hope things get easier for you. Meant it. Ended the call. Sat there with the phone in my hand and realized I had just said something I had never said before. Not a no dressed up as a maybe. Just a no. And it did not feel like losing anything. Joel texted the next day. Warm and casual. No mention of the call. No mention of the 500. He sent me a link to some article about a band we used to listen to together. Said he thought I would find it interesting. The way he used to text in the early years before any of this had a weight to it. I read the text, and I recognized the move immediately. Joel was resetting to before the call, testing whether I would follow him back there to the place where nothing had been said and nothing had been decided. I did not respond. For days later he called. I watched the phone ring on my kitchen counter. Let go to voicemail. He did not leave one. An hour later, a text came through. Just checking in, hope everything is good. Let him know if I wanted to grab food sometime. I read that one too. Did not respond to that either. Put my phone in my jacket pocket and went for a walk around the neighborhood. On the walk, I thought about the road trip he had mentioned on the call. That specific weekend in year one, before any of this had shape. We drove out to a state park and slept in a cheap motel and ate gas station breakfast sandwiches in the parking lot. It was a good weekend. I let myself think that without letting it change anything. It was a good weekend. And it was 6 years ago. And those two things could both be true at the same time. I called Andre that evening. Told him what happened. The call with Joel, the decision, the text since. Andre listened the way he always does. Does not jump in. Does not try to fix anything. Just sits with it. When I finished, he asked me one question. He said, how do you feel? I thought about it honestly. Said tired mostly. And something underneath the tired that I could not name yet. Andre said you have been carrying that for a long time. I said, I know. He said, you do not have to feel bad about putting it down. I said, I do not feel bad. I was trying to figure out what I did feel. Told him I would let him know when I figured it out. He said, take your time. Then near the end of the call, Andre said something else. He said, was the friendship ever real? Separate from the money stuff. I sat with that for a minute. Thought about the road trip and the phone calls and the dinners. Thought about the way Joel used to make me laugh before I started tracking what his calls were going to cost me. I said parts of it. The early parts. Andre said that is enough to grieve. I said, yeah. Said it quietly. It is. We said goodnight and hung up, and I sat in the dark living room for a while after that. Not doing anything. Just sitting. Letting the quiet be the quiet. 10 days after the call, Joel sent a longer text. Not a reset attempt. A real message. He said he'd been thinking about our last conversation, and he wanted me to know he understood he crossed a line. Said he valued the friendship and did not want to lose it over money. Said he knew he had not been great about paying things back, and that he was going to fix that. Said he missed talking to me. It was the most honest thing Joel had written in years. I read it twice. Let the words sit there. Try to feel whether any part of me wanted to believe it. The answer came back quiet but clear. I did not. I wrote a reply. Took my time with it. Sat at my kitchen table with my phone in my hand and typed it out slowly. Did not write it in anger. Wrote it the way I would want something written to me if the roles were reversed. Clearly, without cruelty, without leaving anything unresolved. I told him I was glad he reached out and that I wanted him to hear something clearly. This was not about one conversation or one amount. It was about a pattern that had run for 6 years and had not changed. I did not believe it was going to change because it had not changed in 6 years. Not with any of the conversations we had adjacent to it. I told him I wished him well, and I meant it. Told him I did not think continuing the friendship was something I was able to do. Read it back once. Sent it. Joel did not reply that day. Did not reply the following day either. On the third day, a single message arrived. Okay. That was all it said. I looked at the word on my screen. Just okay. No anger. No apology. No plea. Just the smallest possible acknowledgement that something had been said and heard and would not be contested. I thought about 6 years. Thought about the road trip. Thought about the number I had written down on that piece of notebook paper. I did not reply to okay. There was nothing to reply to. The word contained everything Joel was willing to give to the ending of 6 years. I decided that was information too. I put my phone down. Made dinner. A simple thing. Pasta and a jar of sauce. Ate at my kitchen table with the radio on low. Did not check my phone again that evening. Did not feel the need to. The silence on the other end of that message was not the kind that leaves a door open. It was the kind that closes one. And I was okay with that. 14 days after the okay Terrence's text arrived. 3 sentences. I was standing in my kitchen with a glass of water when my phone buzzed. Terrence said he ran into Joel last weekend. Said Joel seemed to be doing fine. Said Joel had been spending a lot of time with a guy named Patrick lately, and apparently Patrick had been helping him out with a few things. I read all 3 sentences. Read them again. Did the math without meaning to. 2 weeks. I set my phone down on the counter and did not pick it up again for 20 minutes. When I picked it up, I read the 3 sentences one more time. Thought about Patrick, a name I did not recognize. A person I had never met. Someone who was now in the position I had occupied for 6 years. I thought about what Patrick's next 6 years might look like. Thought about whether Patrick was a generous person who believed in helping friends. Thought about whether anyone had told Patrick about the electric bill and the rent and the medical bill and the $800 that became a bigger picture. Thought about all of this briefly and with genuine clarity. Then I stopped thinking about it, because it was not mine to think about anymore. I called Andre. Read him the 3 sentences from Terrence's text. Andre was quiet for a moment. Then he said 2 weeks. I said 2 weeks. He said, how does that feel? I thought about it. Really thought about it the way Andre always makes space for. Said, you know what it feels like? It feels like the last piece of evidence I did not know I was still waiting for. He said, what do you mean? I said I made the decision, and I sent the message, and I meant it. But somewhere underneath that, I think I was still holding a version of Joel that might have been real. The early version. The road trip version. And then Terrence sends me 3 sentences, and the holding stops. Because you do not transfer a 6-year pattern to a new person in 2 weeks unless the pattern was always the thing. Not me. Not the friendship. The pattern. Andre did not say anything for a moment. Then he said, so what do you feel? I said relieved. Said it without drama. Without performance. I feel relieved. Andre said good. I said yeah. He said that is the right thing to feel. I said I know. I texted Terrence back. 2 words. Thanks for letting me know. Put my phone in my pocket. Finished making my coffee. Drank it at the kitchen table. Did not think about Joel again that morning. Well, I did think about him later. It was brief, passing. The road trip version. I allowed it. Then I let it go. I went through my finances the following Saturday morning. Same table, same routine, same mug of coffee. Opened my bank app and went through the last 30 days line by line. There were no transfers to Joel. No mentions to respond to. No asks disguised as check-ins. No situations requiring a Friday solution. The 30 days were mine. I looked at the numbers for a while. They were the same numbers they had always been. The cutoff had not made me wealthy. It had simply stopped a slow drain I had normalized so completely I had stopped feeling it years ago. I closed the app and made more coffee. A colleague at work asked me to lunch the following week. His name was David. We had worked near each other for 2 years without crossing into actual friendship. Always cordial. Always meaning to make plans. Always something else. We went to lunch at a sandwich shop near the office. It was easy. At no point did David need anything from me. We talked about the work, a film we had both seen, a part of the city I had not been to in years. On the walk back, I thought this is what it is supposed to feel like. Not every friendship has to cost something. I had known that intellectually for years. I was now knowing it differently. Andre invited me to a small gathering at his house the following weekend. I went, knew most of the people there. Good people, stable people, people who had never needed anything from me beyond my company. I stood in Andre's kitchen with a drink in my hand, talking to a guy named Marcus about nothing significant. Marcus was telling me about a problem he was having with his lawnmower. Just telling me, not asking for anything, just talking. I felt something I realized I had not felt in a social setting for a long time. I felt light. Andre caught me in the kitchen later. Said quietly, "You seem different." I said, "Different how?" He said, "Like you put something down." I looked around the room at all those people who were just there to be there. No agenda. No transfer requests waiting at the end of the night. I said, "Yeah." Andre said, "Good party." I said, "Yeah, good party." He nodded and went back to his guests. I refilled my drink and stood near the window for a minute watching the street outside. The light was still there. I just stood with it. Did not question it. Did not explain it. Just let it be there. 3 weeks after Terrence's text, I ran into him at an industry event. A hotel ballroom, the same kind of place where I had met Joel 6 years earlier. Terrence was standing near the bar. We grabbed a drink and found a corner of the room where we could hear each other talk. He asked how I was doing. I said, well, meant it specifically, not as a reflex. Terrence mentioned Joel once. Brief. Said he seemed to be doing okay. Said Patrick seemed like a decent guy. I nodded. Did not ask follow-up questions. Did not feel the pull to. Terrence changed the subject. We talked for another 20 minutes about work and travel and a restaurant that had just opened near his place. When we parted, he said we should grab dinner sometime. I said I would like that. Meant it. On the drive home, I thought about the number I had written down. The total from 6 years of transfers. I had not thought about it in weeks. Thought about it now without the weight it used to carry. It was just a number. It bought me 6 years of information about a person. I have paid more for less useful things. I got home, hung up my jacket, went to my desk, and opened my laptop. I've been working on something for the past 2 weeks. A plan for a trip I had wanted to take for years. Always postponed. Always something else requiring the time or the money or the mental space. I opened the document, read where I had left off, started adding to it. It was a Tuesday evening. I had nowhere to be and nothing owed. I worked on the plan for an hour. It was a good hour. I spent a long time thinking that friendship was complicated. It was not complicated. It was simple. I was the one making it complicated by refusing to see it plainly. Joel found someone new in 2 weeks. That is not a wound. That is an answer. I stopped waiting for a different one a long time ago. I just did not know it until the relief arrived, and I recognized it for what it was. The feeling of a man who made the right call and finally has the evidence to prove it. Not to anyone else, just to himself. That is enough. That has always been enough. I am over at where silence ends. Have you ever felt relief instead of hurt when someone showed you who they really were?